we are going to look at everything as a plasma, not a matter shape and form. In that respect, what you come to see or to understand is a new way to look at the operation of the whole muscle. But for the first time, we speak as a whole, as the structure of what you call chemicals, what we call plasma energy. If one looks at the structure of the ATP, you look on the right hand side, you see the number of nitrogens. At the same time, you see the carbon bond, and you see the OH and the phosphor. If you look at this structure not as numbers which is put down in a chemical reaction, or as a unit of just names, you come to understand very rapidly from the right hand side that this is an active unit. It releases a lot of energy, and this is only due to the nitrogens. The 5 nitrogens on the side immediately tells you there are 5 amino acids. And when you see phosphor connected, go back to what we talked about in the bone structure, presence of fiber. This means that this structure is part of DNA and is registered to be and is replicated directly. So in reality, the energy released is due to the ionization of the nitrogen, and at the same time, the PPs gives you a direct indication that this is a DNA connected to RNA, because the backbone of your DNA is phosphor. On the other hand, we look at this as a plasma and not as elements. So immediately, with the number of oxygens available, we know oxygen is a magnetic binding, as is in the water. There are 2 molecules of water in this structure, and the oxygens which you see as surplus, these are 5 of them, which connects the 5 amino acids together. At the same time, you have 5 carbon surplus, which connects as the communication line between the 5 neurosystems in respect to one unit. So when you look at a unit like this from now on, as we start looking at the plasma technology and the plasma component, we look at this as one entity, one unit, which is in reality, once manufactured by the body, it has 5 amino acid, which is each one is a plasma on its own. The 5 amino acids are connected through one oxygen to each other, and at the same time, the hydrogen surplus which is there shows the strength of the energy which this unit can release, because the hydrogen is the ionizing factor. In totality, we see that once you take one unit out, which is the OH, you have surplus energy. And that surplus energy comes from the ionization of the nitrogen due to the vibration and extreme ultraviolet, which that appears as the energy which the body needs or the muscle uses. What we try to do from now on, try to explain the 3-dimensional effect of every structure. And when you look at structures like this, the minute you see the nitrogen, try to convert these figures into what we do in the nanotechnology and in our plasma technology. Nitrogen is extreme ultraviolet producer. phosphor is a connection to DNA. The carbons, the surplus carbons out of the amino acid bond is the communication between the fibers, and it's okay because the pictures are there, they can see. And the oxygen is magnetic binding. The two water molecules are in the GANS state, which means they are binders, which keep the structure in the shape of liquid, or what we call moist as a fat. So in the totality, not only the amino acid stays as a moisture, the whole structure stays as a moisture, and this oxygen, water surplus and hydrogen is kind of energy transfer across electromagnetic field plasma gravitational system. So the cells have a direct effect in how they move and how they operate. The reason for change from 3-phosphor to 2-phosphor is the release of additional phosphor, which in the structure of the DNA, these phosphors link up or match up with the DNA. So every time if there is any change in the structure or use, it is immediately recorded in the DNA. And at the same time, the energy released by the structure to become 2-phosphor is that surplus phosphor automatically takes its place in the what you call the DNA. So every time you see a structure with a P, you understand this is the connection to this structure has a connection with your DNA and recording of the structure in RNA. But at the same time, this means that the brain considers this as a vital information to be registered. In a later time when we speak about the structure of the muscles, you will understand the reason for such a continuous registration of information through DNA as a plasma. One of the main reasons is that if there are any defects or any new conversion or what we call mutation needed for any reasons, usually after puberty, if something which is registered on the P is sent to the brain in this manner, it becomes part of your RNA. If this registration of the P, due to its numbers, is done before puberty, and in early stages between like 2 or 3 years till about 10, 12 years, or 12, 14 years when the puberty comes in, this automatically becomes as a conversion unit, which means by puberty it becomes part of the DNA permanently. We see this in a lot of cases. In some cases we have spoken about this, but the energy release in the whole process is dictated by the nitrogen, even though you see it at 5 nitrogen on one side of the whole structure. This is what we try to walk away from. This is what in the new plasma technology immediately should give you the structure that this is a structure from Earth, because nitrogen is part of its component. Then you can see the combination of the carbon and the OH, which is again combination of the structure of the this planet. And in coming time, you will understand these kind of structures to, in a way, allocate and indicate where the other creatures of the universe come from. There is not much difference in the process of transfer of energy. But in the process that if you have K, then you have a different color, but you still have the same combination, most probably with a difference in the P in the DNA. There has been a discussion, and I've been explaining to the knowledge seekers in the respect of the existence of nitrogen in the muscle tissue. And one of the things which we open the books maybe for the first time, and you understand how the structure will change, is if you change, for example, and add in part of the protein chain what we call in the original structure cesium and copper, if this amino acid connected to iron, you have a red blood cells and the color of your fiber tissues are red. But if you had a copper cesium oxide, copper oxide, then the color of your body is blue, or blood will become blue. We see this in the shoe crab, and this structure does not belong to the planet, this planet. So in conjunction, yes, in conjunction with this understanding of the protein structure, for the first time, maybe what has happened in time being in the past, the structure of the cesium copper in an entity, as we always said, the emotional part has a leech on top of it, which is the structure of the arm and leg of human body and the muscles as we see it. And as I spoke before in the other talks, that if we can take the emotional part of the human being into anywhere in the universe and allow it to accept, to convert to the environment of the universe where it lands, it will take the shape of the environmental tissue muscles, or what you call protein, but it still will preserve its essence, and in essence the man will be a man, but maybe with a slightly different 4 hands and 2 arms. So in reality, if you understand this process and understand the shoe crab with the blue blood, you understand this for the first time, that this creature, this animal, has essence outside this planet. This might answer a lot of people's questions in what happens to us if we go somewhere else. We keep the essence, in essence, our blood structure, but our body, the physical part, will mutate to fit the environment where it is. So if you look at the structure, and this is something we spoke before about this kind of mutation according to the environmental, and I always call that the physical part is a leech which literally gets its information from the emotional part and adapts the environmental and itself to be able to survive. We see for the first time in the structure of the shoe crab blue blood. And this shoe crab, at the moment, if you speak to the officers of FDA, they charge you slightly a little bit more money. It has allowed FDA to speed up the process of whatever you call it, certification of medicines, because it has a higher potency due to presence of the cesium oxides and copper oxide in the blood. So this is for the first time we open the other side of the book due to understanding a new understanding of the plasma. Is shoe crab from this planet? In the shape and form which has adapted itself, yes. But in essence, no. Because it shows its blood. We do not see any other animal with this kind of combination, with this kind of structure. So in so many ways, this will show wherever we go on the universe, as long as we carry the nitrogen bond which is connected with our phosphor, we will be unable to replicate it, because it's become part of the phosphor structure connection with our body. But we will not be able, most probably, to keep the physical part the same as what we have. This is very important. this is a departure from what man have understood, and in so many ways we see the more heavier elements as changing the cesium or copper oxide or cesium instead of nitrogen allows us to deliver a faster, more effective energy system, and as what you see with FDA uses it for assessment of the new medicine. And it has shortened the time by a factor of actually sometimes from 5 years to about 6 months, because the blood is more active. The information which has ordered the combination and the structure of the blood to absorb what is from the environment has stayed the same to guarantee the survival of the emotional part of the entity. But on the physical part, it has adopted the physicality of the presence of the chain of events of the protein which are available on this planet, but it has taken the sequence, the way the emotional part in its origin, wherever it has come from, has used and has not changed. So the structure of the brain of the man, and in so many ways, will stay the same on the emotional side, but it will adopt the material side for its physicality wherever we go. And Shukrab is a very clear example of it. There are another three animals in this planet which show the indication that they do not belong here. Just because we see muscles and we see bone structure, or what we call calcium structure on this animal, it fools us to think that it is from this planet. But its blood, the information transfer confirms that this does not apply to planet Earth. So when you start looking at these structures the way Elia has done, and the muscle tissues and the creation of muscles on the body of the man or animals, as we open the space technology in a direct way, you come to understand, to see in so many ways, as we say he is from China, or he's from Africa, or somebody's from Europe, in the amino acid structure of the life and the way it processes it and stores information for the next generation, we will be able to fingerprint where and how and from where these people come, or these animals, or whatever we call them, entities, have their essence, their source. This is some, maybe a lot of people think this is a point of diversion from what one has hoped, but in a way, if we study the full structure of the energy release and storage and the linkage of the information, this gives us a clear indication that look at the totality of it. They put numbers, and you see pictures of the muscles as Elia has showed us. But numbers does not come together in that way. You see the muscle tissues as a strand, the way it's been shown. Now put nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen of this, all these names and numbers on this, you'll find out you have a strand. This strand is of 5 proteins next to each other. You have oxygen connecting the 5 together because gravitational field or magnetic field in the liquid state of the planet is oxygen. And then you find the surplus carbon is the link connection between the 5 amino acids and between them and across to the other cells. So, and the extra hydrogen which you have is part of the energy release system, which is released by the existence and the release of the fiber, what do you call it, phosphor from the chain. Slowly, as I said in the program, in our teachings yesterday, we go to look at the structure as a plasma and not names and fibers. nitrogen is a plasma, hydrogen is a plasma, copper is a plasma. So we did a calculation about this unit yesterday. It was, I think, about 490, if I was correct, 99. Almost 500 if you count the number of the electrons which are coming in with all these elements. So you see in reality the performance of some 500 protons and neutrons in one cluster. And the way the body treats this as one unit, even if you have a physicality with it, is a unit with so many, what do you call it, plasmas. Now, if you can convert these matters all into a Ganser state, which the body works in the Ganser state, which is all these proteins here are in the Ganser state, as now you see it in the chemical combination and then back in the physiology as the threads of the muscle. You can make and divide from this process 10 atoms or gases in energy level, plasmatic side, gravitational magnetic field of an element which is 50. Or you can make 250, or sorry, 500 hydrogen atoms from it. It is so easy now with understanding that these materials, these what we call protein, are in the Ganser state, to use the material of the muscles for conversion. That's exactly what is done. The separation of the phosphor and the separation of the nitrogen is in gravitational magnetic field in a Ganser state. And so you can start understanding that the energy transfer, even when you lose one phosphor, is not in the form of energy, as has been in the thermodynamic second law, as has been explained in the literature. It is in the form of the gravitational magnetic field, which the body transfers into in what it likes. And when you get these kind of what they call thermal, energies, this comes, in reality, you've seen this surplus energy, what they call free energy in the body, which is the energy which is freed from release of one phosphor. You've seen this in the conversion of the nanostructure into the gas state, which when you connect your batteries or wires, you can turn on a light. And this conversion always leads to a 37-degree temperature of the body of the man. And this is important because now you go from a molecular structure into the plasma, and then the material in the plasmatic state becomes energy of the lymph, and then it releases. That's how the conversion comes in the muscles, and that's how your body is continuously kept at the 37 degrees. All the, more or less all the animals on this planet need it, because that's the conversion rate. And sometimes if you can produce a nitrogen chain, or what you call amino acid chain in the cups which you have, if you measure the temperatures in a specific condition, is about 36 degrees. So we've done this, we have measured this. So in reality, the conversion is in a Ganser state. Then, as I said for the first time, maybe, as I said before, maybe with what we disclosed today, with this very simple explanation, the ones who came on Noah's boat, they understood the rest. And it's for us, and they spoke about it. Was this animal, or did this animal, what we call the shoe crab, came on the Noah's boat? But it managed to convert itself into a structure which it fits it to be where it is and how it is. And then this gives us an insight in the future of the mankind in the space. So those in a very simple way why I picked this up, and Elia is showing it because I didn't want to discuss it yesterday, but I thought now it's a good point to bring it back, and I asked her to put it back in today, is to understand the separation between the physicality and the emotional part. You see, the physicality is embedded in the amino acid, the 5-nitrogen, and the rest which creates the amino acid, and then is embedded in DNA through phosphor link. And then when the phosphor link picks up the information, the positioning, the energy which creates for itself, for its positioning in the structure of helix structure of the DNA, creates a positioning and information in RNA, which becomes part of the permanent structure of the man, and with it, then it becomes part of the structure and the working operation between the emotional part and the physical part of the body. This is very, very important for those who will understand what has been explained in the past 10 minutes in the coming years. In time, man will understand, in reality, what has been locked into with the fingerprint of DNA here, with the 2 phosphors. That's why you have the phosphor in the muscle tissues, in the amino acid as it is. And as you remember, in the process of the bone structure, we always said phosphor is produced in the inner structure of the bone, specifically for this reason, and specifically for fingerprinting and matching to DNA in the structure. And then you have the calcium, which is again created and held in the immune system, in the structure of the inner part of the bone marrow, and these two always travel together. And that's why Elia explained to you what and how the calcium moves in the boundary, in these layers, in these fibers. Because amino acid in its process as a unit, energy unit like this, or as a defense system or immune system, come and work together, where calcium and the phosphor guarantee the fingerprint of how much immune system, what it's needed, that in the next generation, when the next generation is produced, exactly the protection is set and is there for it to be, doesn't need to learn it again. So slowly, as I said, we start opening to understanding of the plasmatic condition, and here you see one of the example of it. There is the example of the shoe crab. It's an unusual looking animal. It carries a blue blood, and they now breed it because of its blue blood. And its soul, and its what we call emotional part, is very much does not belong to this planet. Even if you look at its structures, it looks like a spaceship with a tail. And FDA has found this blue, high energy blood very effective in assessing a work of the new medicines which is developed by pharmaceuticals. And this is what I told in my talks in the past, that in time man will come across other creatures, but we will never have offsprings, because their amino acid structure is different and stronger than ours. We can learn from it, but it's impossible to have physical interaction of offspring. Emotional interaction of offsprings, which leads to creation of offspring, can be done, which I explain in the future. And that is possibility. And if you look in so many ways at the blood structure of the what you call shoe crab, has a lot of similarities to man, because it has chosen the environmental condition of this planet. As I said, the emotional part has brought in, and then it has adapted its physical side to it to be able to survive. But in reality, it has never lost its origin, that it had to live off cesium and copper. And most probably this animal did not have a cesium and copper. It had a combination, as I explained, as a plasmatic, which is near to cesium and copper. So it has adopted what is available here, which gives the gravitational magnetic field effect in totality of this entity, and we detect it, we recognize it, and we see it because of its color as to be the cesium, and at the same time interaction in the copper with it. You've seen this blue copper in your some of the reactors if you put near enough to it with your copper oxides. So now you understand how easy and how close we are to the verge of the breakthrough into another dimension in existence. But we have to understand our presence and how we work first before we can go. When you look at these structures, look at the totality and total magnetic field they produce. I look at different pictures Elia has, how they assemble the hydrogen and oxygen together. But in reality, this structure is a sphere. And it cannot be anything but the sphere because the fields are together. What we have done today, as I said, the foundation work has changed from matter into plasma. And we start showing you the presence, the work of the plasma in reality in 3 dimension, not in what you call it, in the flat form as a paper. Again today, this is another departure from what has been. There is nothing wrong with the structure which has been written chemically or the pictures of the fiber which is shown. But now you have to understand in essence how it is created and what is done. There we are, blue blood from crab. And it's the top scientists from what you call it, FDA, which they use this because of its activeness and its energy. We will see, pardon? Yes, we will see these kind of interactions in the coming time as we go to space. As much as this blue blood is interesting to us and different, our red blood is to the people of the space. But it's keeping respect and are valuing the life. That's the whole essence. And that's what you see. Colonization is not going from one village to another. With understanding of the new technology and understanding of how it's done, we will and we are in the process of joining in the universal community. But now we start showing the first signs of interaction. I give the headphone back to Elia.